What is happening, everybody? Hey, welcome to another episode of Extra Point. This is the high school football recap show, and we do it every Monday. So, again, we've got the guys here, Matt Mowery, John Kidd here on Extra Point, and Scott Burnstein, of course. So, again, Week 3 of the football season, always a big. We called it the Show Me Week as what was going to happen. We were going to learn some more about who were maybe pretenders and who are contenders. I do want to mention the podcast is sponsored by Lawrence Technological University. Possible is everything. A 30-22 win over Wisconsin Lutheran.
2-0.
That's right. Exactly. They got better records than Michigan and Michigan State.
They're the best team in the state of Michigan.
There you go.
Record-wise.
Yeah, the offense scored 27 unanswered. And if you would like to hear more about that, you can do two things. You can watch the LTU Sports Report, which will have highlights of the particular football game for Lawrence Tech, as well as other stuff that airs on Fox Sports Detroit. 4:30 on Mondays is the premiere, but it also will air other times. But you can just go online like you are right now and watch it. Just go to LTUathletics.com, but there's also a YouTube channel that is dedicated to LTU Athletics. You can watch the show there. Or you can show up at Shields if you want. Tuesday nights at 7. That's the LTU Football Podcast. We have Jeff Duvendeck in the house, and we're going to break down some film, and we talk everything LTU football. Or you can just watch it online live. So it's the only live show we do. This is not live if you thought it was. So obviously because we need to get all that footage in. So that's what's happening there. The MHSA also a sponsor of this podcast, and Hungry Howie's. Okay, first off, some of the games we had on State Champs TV, which if you did not catch it yesterday on Fox Sports Detroit, it will re-air several times throughout the week, but you can also check it out online right now. We have a YouTube playlist, State Champs TV. We also have it on Facebook and individual games on Twitter and stuff like that. So we're going to begin with games that we have that we showed on State Champs TV. Again, if you did not see State Champs, it airs every Sunday at 9 on Fox Sports Detroit. It airs a bunch of times throughout the week. You can also watch it online. We have a YouTube channel, State Champs TV, also Facebook, individual games on Twitter. Mishawaka Penn and Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Orchard Lake welcoming in Penn. Rice went to Penn, beat them. Penn is now 3-1. Orchard Lake 0-3. They play a week earlier in there. That's why they have 4 games. We all predicted Penn would win this game, but I thought it would be a lot higher scoring. Orchard Lake was in it till the end.
Yeah, it's one of those where you weren't real sure, having not seen Penn play, knowing that they're a traditional powerhouse, how good they are this year, how to factor that. But I think that's a good sign for St. Mary's that they kept it close, even though they did fall to 0-3 for the second straight year. It's at least a positive sign after 2 lopsided games really to start the season.
20-17.
It's a real uphill battle now going into the Catholic League Central, 0-3. Team that doesn't have a ton of playmakers. I really like, I've been shouting him out, Josh McCarty, one of their weapons on offense. He can run the ball. He can catch it out of the backfield. He's looked good in these 3 games, but
they're going to have to go 5-1.
Not a ton of bright spots, and it's going to be difficult to make the playoffs. And it looks like right now, a third through the season, that they're going to be on the outside looking in for the second year in a row.
Climax Scott and Clarkston Everest got together. This was a barn burner, and I'm glad. This is one of those games you'd be like, why are you guys covering that? Well, because we like to spread our coverage around and give coverage to smaller schools. We wanted to celebrate Clarkston Everest's good start, and it was an opportunity for us to see a team that we normally don't get a chance to see in Climax Scott's.
They're what I like to call a microwave program.
Right.
It's instant heat right out of the gate. They've been a program for, I think, going on 5-6 years now. Have made the playoffs every year.
Yeah.
Last year won a district. It's upward and onward for that program.
And they had to come from behind to win this one, 44-38.
Well, and it was, speaking of microwave, it was kind of like that. It was 30-23 at the half, which is, it's usually a final score. And then it kind of went dry for the second half, and I think it was right near the end when Everest Collegiate tied it up on one of the Master Mateos, taking it in for a touchdown, and then obviously went to overtime. So
we talked about it on the forecast.
Yeah. Don't they still have 15, 20 kids on that roster at Everest?
Yeah, there's only
small.
15 or 20 kids in the whole school.
Yeah. So all of them play.
Yes, all of them play. Yeah, it's mandatory. If you enroll in school, you have to play football.
I don't think you can overstate though how impressive it is for a program like that. Yes, they were attached to the Lakes program for a couple of years, but to be a school of that size and literally never missed the playoffs since you started your team.
Yeah, there haven't been baby steps. It's just been that one big leap, and you've been at that level since you started. That's hard to do.
Number 24, Canton, goes to 2-1. They beat Plymouth, who now falls to 2-1. 47-26 was the final. I shot that game, and I can tell you, when we get to Thursday and we start having our conversation about Mr. Football, Stevie Wonderwalker, as I call him now,
Love it.
was insane. So he ran for 299 yards and 3 scores against Northville in that blanking. He ran for 318 in this one and had 4 scores. Yeah. And again, they still run that tight T offense. It's so hard to shoot.
Yeah, you got faked a couple times.
I did. I
get faked.
Vic from Channel 4 got faked more than I did. Yeah. You know, it's like because they run it well. Yeah. I mean, they do a really good job of hiding the ball. So that's why I went behind on that one because I knew he was going to break another one, and sure enough, he did. But it worked out anyway. Go ahead.
I was going to say, just Steve Walker, what I love about his running style is it's just so rugged.
Yeah.
A guy that's his legs are always moving, a lot of yards after initial contact, and a guy that just seems to have an endless motor. And I just keep on feeding him the ball. He's a workhorse.
And the amazing thing is his first step, his explosion to the line is faster than anybody I've seen in the state, at least right now. It is so quick. He's at the hole and he's gone, and it just doesn't give linebackers an opportunity to react until he's going by you. Good win for Canton. Moving forward, it was a kind of a back and forth ball game, but then they took control late and won it. Our main event, number 13 Farmington Hills falls to number 7 Oak Park 23-15. Scott and John were at that game. Matt and Sean were the correct predictors in that Oak Park. We took Farmington Hills Harrison. Obviously, it was a close game. What were your thoughts, John, on that game?
With Harrison, with its final year, they're going to go all out. Roderick I heard stories that he's been injured, but he didn't look injured on that 85-yard kickoff return for the touchdown. And Oak Park, they had the issue with the suspended player, but DeJuan Mathis, had a very good game. And Philip Stewart is really taking the hold of that running back job at Oak Park.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to give it up either. Yeah. I mean, he is another one of these surprises that you didn't see coming. Over 140 yards all 3 games, 175 in the opener, 145 in week 2, 152 against Harrison, and a kid that's just the definition of slippery, shifty. He's got some serious speed on him, a guy that probably runs at least a 4.5, if not a 4.4, and a kid that whose vision is improving, his field vision is improving. DeJuan Mathis still hasn't played that great game yet, but he's playing good games and he's showing flashes of brilliance. I saw, or Jonathan and I both saw, it was one of the best passes I've seen all year, if not in a year or two. He threw a 50-yard touchdown bomb that was just a laser beam,
perfectly in stride.
Perfect spiral. Caught his receiver Mike Bowens perfectly with the basket catch over his shoulder. When you have an Ohio State bound quarterback that has yet to play their best football, and your team is 3-0, and you pretty much just, sewed up the OA White because they beat the two defending co-champs with themselves. It's only bright skies ahead for Oak Park this year.
Well, speaking of post-game interviews, John actually had a chance to catch up with the head coach, Greg Carter. So let's check that out right now.
You guys are still undefeated, so just about the win tonight.
Yeah, the win was tremendous. It was. We broke our season down into thirds, and our first 3 games were tremendous, against some outstanding opponents. And for us to be 3-0 is a tribute to the kids and the coaches. So we're extremely happy about, being 3-0 and, looking forward to playing the next opponent and trying to keep getting better and better every week.
And just tell me about DeJuan's performance tonight.
DeJuan was great. We missed some passes. He made some checks at the line of scrimmage. They provide a lot of pressure, and they put a lot of guys at the line of scrimmage, so he got us into good plays. And then in the end, we decided to put him in at safety, and he comes up with an interception. So, that's the kind of player he is, and that's what we expect out of him, big plays and big moments.
And talk about how this is the last time you guys are going to be playing Harrison.
And what I really like about it is a clean, friendly rivalry. Both teams play hard. Every time that we play one another, and we know we've got to give our best effort in order to beat them, whether it's here or at their field. So it's a tremendous rivalry. We're going to definitely miss it, we're happy to get the win. And we've played all kind of games, high-scoring games, low-scoring games, dog fights, defensive struggles, whatever kind of game that you can imagine. We've had an opportunity to play against them. So just playing against Coach Harrington's team, because they, as you saw tonight, they never gave up. When it looked bad for them, they ran a kickoff back. So, then they stop us down on our goal line. So they do those kind of things because, I honestly believe they're one of the few teams now where all of their kids play for the Hawks. They play for the name on the front and not necessarily the name on the back. They got a tremendous program, and we try to model a lot of our stuff, off of Coach Harrington's teams.
What do you think the team needs to improve on to move forward now?
Just continue to improve in every phase is not one thing. We're trying to be a really good special teams team, and to give up a touchdown to a guy like that, that's something that we don't want to do. So we have to improve in that area. I think we're getting better kicking. Our passing game skill can improve. We dropped a lot of balls tonight. So there's a lot of things that we can improve on. So we're just looking forward to being able to do that and going to the next week and try to get better.
All right, so a class act on all levels, Greg Carter. We talked a little bit about in previous shows, he's been there a while now. I think this is 5 years?
It's like six.
Six
or seven.
Okay, and he's had a history of winning state championships. He did it at DePores.
He's got four.
Yeah, did it at DePores, and he took Inkster there a couple of times. They didn't win it, but we'll see if this team is poised
Anyone that has
to make that move.
Almost or more rings than they do fingers on their hands. I mean,
Yeah.
he's got four.
Yeah.
So his next one would be like the one for the thumb.
Yes.
And
it's been a while.
One thing
Go
more
ahead.
about Harrison.
Okay. They're all in.
It looks like 95% certainty they're going to play in Division III. They got a couple Hail Marys out there with the state that I hope have a chance to get answered because the state's going based on enrollment from last year. Their enrollment this year
is different.
should be Division IV or Division V. If they were in Division IV or Division V, they'd have a much better chance at making that run to Ford Field like they did last year in Division III.
Yeah.
They have playmakers. They have a number of them, but they're just so thin in terms of personnel. Everyone's playing both ways. You could tell at the end of that game that they were getting gassed.
Let's move on. That was good. It's good debate, and that's why we do these podcasts, so that we can give you, longer discussions. This was one of the criticisms we have on the radio show is we only had a few minutes to get to everything, and so this gives us a more free-form opportunity. But we are going to move on and talk about the games of interest that we kind of previewed on Thursday. One was Warren Mott and Grosse Pointe South.
Didn't give enough props to GPS.
No.
We sure didn't. And
they housed Mott.
Yeah, 38-0 was that. We all took Warren Mott to win that game. We really underestimated Grosse Pointe South.
When we talked about Show Me, and it was an opportunity for Warren Mott to show, and it was also an opportunity for GPS to show, and they showed that defense is for real. I mean, I think they'd given up 7 points coming in.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
Now still 7
Smoldering
points.
effort on defense.
Yeah. Haven't allowed a touchdown in 10 quarters. I mean, that's impressive. And 2 early turnovers led to scores, and they were up, I think, 21-0 like that. And that's when a game like that can really turn on a dime, when you get that early lead, and then it's incumbent on the other team to kind of scramble to get back quickly. And obviously,
and nothing more deflating than turning the ball over and then giving up a touchdown as a result of that. So and if you're Grosse Pointe South, that's exactly what you do. So big statement win for them. Number 2 Muskegon took on East Grand Rapids. It was a game of interest because, again, you can't not think about East Grand Rapids in terms of being one of the better teams in the state, and they had not been on anybody's radar. I felt this would be a good matchup, a good battle. We all predicted Muskegon would win. They did.
But no one predicted a 21-7 lead for East Grand Rapids in the first half. It took Twitter by storm.
Yes, it did.
We kind of talked about it being hard to get up for all of those consecutive games, and the divisional season doesn't start until next week. So this was almost kind of one of those lying in the weeds game. Yeah, exactly, and that's what it turned out to be with and then Muskegon kind of flipped a switch and scored on 6 of their next 7 possessions, and that's all she wrote. But that's one of those where a team, if they're not battle tested and championship worthy, can kind of as we saw in the previous game we just talked about, where you can crumble when you get behind 21-7 for the first time in 2 years.
In that environment, which is hostile.
Yeah.
And I know those Pioneer fans were going crazy and thinking that they were about to shock the world. So credit Muskegon. They dropped 49 in the game, almost 50.
Kept their poise.
Yeah, kept their poise.
Did what they did.
We just talked about Oak Park kind of doing a similar thing, building this thing. And
how did Cameron Martinez do in that game?
He was 2 rush touchdowns through a touchdown pass. So
he did.
There you go.
Okay.
Kind of another show me thing.
Yeah.
But it was big plays. It was 4 rush touchdowns of 35 plus, and one of them like 70 some yards. So once they were starting to get those creases,
that line.
They got 2 guys on the offensive line that go 320 plus.
Right.
And
athletic.
Yeah.
Marquise Cooper and Anthony Bradford are both 6'6", 320.
And where are they going?
Cooper's not committed anywhere.
Okay.
Bradford's going to
LSU.
LSU.
Right.
After they're
Cooper
leaning
will
on
be
you.
going somewhere.
I'm sure.
He's probably got 40 offers now.
Those guys leaning on you for about an hour and a half. You get a little gassed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't imagine. Chippewa Valley and Utica Eisenhower got together. We knew this would be a good game, and I figured Eisenhower would put up about 24 points. That's about what I figured their offense would do. Chippewa Valley put up 45.
Yeah.
And Scott, Matt, and myself all took this. Sean took Utica Eisenhower. Good win for Chippewa Valley, another team who's just chipping away at getting the job done.
That's the first time in forever they'd beaten them, and so that was nice. I mean,
and it was at their house.
Yeah.
You said in your article, the monkey off the back.
Yeah, seriously. It's one of those where almost as much as valuable as the win and the leg up in the division and all of that kind of stuff is just psychologically knowing you can get past that one thing that's always the roadblock. And it was a close game. It was a 1-touchdown game with 8 minutes left. One of the key turning points was I marched down the field and got a field goal to bring it back to a touchdown again, and it kept yo-yoing back and forth between 2 scores, 1 score, 2 scores. And on the ensuing kickoff, David Ellis just broke out to the left side and put a little twitch on the one defender and was gone. And it was one of those deflating moments.
Holland West Ottawa, we have them ranked 17th in the state. They went to Rockford. Matt Mowery and Sean both picked Holland West Ottawa in this one. They do fight 45-40.
Isaac
we took
Van
Rockford.
Dyke is awesome.
I've been telling
6
you.
touchdowns, 3 rushing, 3 passing.
Yeah.
He's the quarterback, the game-winning score as well.
Yeah.
20 seconds left.
Yeah,
Just,
I think we got another watch lister.
Shout out to Mr. Van Awesome.
Yeah. Well, he's so far this year passing 647 yards, 6 touchdowns, which is a lot.
Yeah.
341 yards rushing and 9 touchdowns. He's accounted for 15 touchdowns in 3 games. Now, they've been in some shootouts, too, which is part of it, so you got to kind of score. But from 1990, this is another one of those get the monkey off the back games. From 1995 to 2016, in that Rockford, West Ottawa
rivalry.
West Ottawa won once. They faced in the playoffs twice. 1-22 in that segment of time. This was the first win at Rockford in nearly 2 decades. And that's one of those, again, where you believe until you do something like this. And that's where it really cements itself that, yes, we're a contender. Yes, we can do this. Yeah. And it's
they're one of those teams that what's going to be the next step? Because last year they made it to the regional finals.
Yep.
They lost to Clarkston. Yep. So now it's going to be, okay, we made it this far. What's the next step? Is now making it to the semifinals and making it to Ford Field.
Celine, number 19 in the state, at Ypsilanti Lincoln. It was the one outlier was you who said that Ypsilanti Lincoln was going to win that game.
This was not the show me week for Ypsilanti Lincoln.
No, it was not.
But I think it might be
Ypsilanti
time.
wins. Let me just say, Ypsilanti wins 38-7. I'm sorry, Celine wins 38-7.
It might be time to. When we're talking about Mr. Football again, it might be time to start maybe trying to pencil in MJ Griffin for some consideration. A guy that is just doing everything. He reminds me of kind of what last year at Harrison with Ovia Gufu, who had you only knew him as a linebacker coming into last year, and then all of a sudden he's playing tight end.
Yeah.
He's playing Viper.
Big
he's
plays.
playing running back. So MJ Griffin going to Temple as a defensive back, But all of a sudden this year, because of personnel issues and graduation and injuries, he's playing quarterback out of the Wildcat. He's playing receiver. Yep. He's rushing the ball. He's blitzing as a linebacker in addition to playing on the defensive side. Playing in the back end.
He's playing the Wildcat
defense.
because of the quarterback that's injured.
Right.
Yep.
So he had a touchdown, a catch on a fourth down. I think it was like a 30-yard touchdown catch. And then he had a touchdown run out of the Wildcat.
Yeah, and it's one where it's not gaudy stats because they're still spotting him when they can to keep him fresh so he can play defense. But it's the big plays. It's the game-changing plays. Because really then what they end up doing once he gives them a spark like they did, the last couple of weeks, is Brendan Monday is their hammer.
Yep.
And he was 192 and 2 touchdowns. Yeah. And when you can still pound the ball like that, but then MJ can give you a couple big plays here and there, that's a really good 1-2 punch between the two of them, carrying the offense.
Yeah, and Coach Palka recognizing that, hey, we've got playmakers. Yeah. Let's make sure it's game plan to make sure they're involved in all facets.
We stole him from the Buckeye State. Yeah. We're keeping him. We're not letting him go back.
That's right. Yes, exactly. Because it seems like everybody else, especially if you're looking at the basketball news,
they're all going to Ohio.
They're all going to Ohio.
Palka got over here, 6-7 years ago?
About 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Came over from Toledo.
Had
Whitmer. Yep.
Had Josh Jackson there, with him for a while. All right, Granville took on Grand Rapids Forest Hills Central. This was a real interesting game because two teams who had a lot to prove and wanted to show that they could find a way to win. And this one about as close as it could get, 37-36 Granville.
And Tate Halleck, they went for 2, and they stuffed them.
Again, 2 weeks in a row they've been stuffed on a 2-point play. And you got to give them props for let's try to win the game.
Yeah.
But when you get them stuffed, then you're
second
guessing yourself as much as anything.
Yeah, no one predicted this. We did not predict this outcome. For some reason, we skipped it when we did it. So I would have taken Forest Hill Central at home.
Right.
But give it to Granville.
Yeah, first 2 weeks.
Schedule's paying off.
Yeah.
Yep.
The final game we're going to talk about is number 25 Davison and Flint Carmen Ainsworth. We had Davison into our top 25 for a reason, and that is because this is the team we need to talk about because not only did they have a big win in week 1 over Southfield A&T, they now have a big win on the road at Flint Carmen Ainsworth, a team coming in that you two thought would win.
Yep. Well, and if you want to talk about awesome quarterback names, we've said this before, Cannon Hall is about the best. 151 yards passing and a touchdown, 123 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, including the game-winning score. And it was one of those just shootout games, went back and forth. Carmen Ainsworth took a lead, midway through the fourth quarter, and then a blocked PAT on that go-ahead score, and then a muffed punt. It's 2 special teams plays that really turned it for Davison in the end, and that's what set up the game-winning touchdown was that short field. So Cannon Hall runs it in. Derek Fletcher, as we talked about last week in the preview show. Dustin, I'm sorry. Just superb field general, had 272 yards and 2 touchdowns for Carmen Ainsworth, and they were right there the entire time. And they're going to be there. I mean, that South Division in the Saginaw Valley League is really stacked with Grand Blanc that's 3-0, and Lapeer that's 3-0, and Davison that's 3-0, and Carmen Ainsworth that's now 2-1. Those are going to be some battles over the next couple of weeks.
Good stuff.
Cannon Hall is great rolling out of the pocket. He throws a great ball on the run, and he's someone that I saw, the couple times I've seen him play, can get outside, avoiding the pass rush, and throw. What's the terminology when you're going to the right but you're throwing to the left?
Cross your body.
Going across your body. So it reminds me a little of Brett Favre.
Brett Favre. All right.
And with Davison, it's like what we've been talking earlier. What's going to be the next step for them? It's always they have a great season, and then they play Clarkston in the districts, and then they lose. I think they're going to be another one of those teams that, okay, what's going to be the next step?
Well, again, when you think about it, too, this is where you credit Clarkston, because Clarkston ends up getting these playoff wins, and, it's like they always surprise us, and it's like they play great teams. It's like, but Clarkston wins again. If you have to end up playing Clarkston in the playoffs, you just hope you get them sooner or later and not sooner.
Let me also give just a tip of a cap to Jacob Weingartz, the new coach at Davison. First off, you're taking over for Zim, who was a beloved figure there, had to step away for some personal reasons. You have those shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Second off, you got a team that literally has 24 players on it. They are really hurting numbers-wise.
And they lost everybody from last year.
You lost Tariq Reed, the Mr. Football finalist. and he has his squad playing, primed out of the gate.
Yeah.
Chomping at the bit, playing hungry, playing mad, playing efficient football, playing smart football, executing on offense and defense. One of the best coaching jobs I've seen this year.
And playing good competition
Yeah.
and getting it done on top of that. So that's where we're at. Okay, we're going to take a timeout. When we come back, we're going to briefly talk a little bit about our Anvil Award, which you can vote on right now at statechampsnetwork.com. And Scott is going to address the PSL. So that's coming up next. Don't go anywhere.
I want to be a dermatologist, and though a lot of universities tried to recruit me for basketball, Lawrence Tech had the science curriculum that I wanted. LTU's Southfield campus is a great place to learn, and the classes are small enough that I don't have to wait for office hours to talk to my professors. They're usually right by my side, challenging me and guiding me toward a successful future. Lawrence Tech. Possible is everything.
You ready, Darius?
Let's do it. Anybody want an autograph?
Autograph? We're here for the stuffed crust pizza.
Stuffed crust pizza? Hey, who do you think you are? End of the line, pal.
Flavor fanatics love stuffing their faces with our stuffed flavored crust. Get one for only $2 more on any large original round pizza.
Hungry? Howie's!
All right, welcome back to Extra Point. Time now to get into our second segment. This one will not be as long, I promise. We want to talk a little bit about our State Champs Anvil Award. This is the award that we're going to recognize what we feel is the top lineman, offensive, defensive, or linebacker in the state. We have a top 10 list there. We have a watch list. And if you're curious at finding the watch list, you just have to kind of look at the introduction that we give to the award. We have our criteria there. You'll see there's a watch list. If you put your mouse over that, you can click and see who that is. I want to mention that Darius Robinson is on our watch list. I had a chance to see him. It's funny, when you see some of these guys who are going to play big-time college football, they're just giants. They're just mammoth as a pair. It's like you see him standing on the sideline and they're above everyone else. It's like a man, literally a man among boys. He had a fumble recovery, and this one was very agile in that, and was stout in doing a good job of preventing Plymouth from really doing anything from a perspective of trying to bust through the line.
He comes off the edge.
Yeah, it comes up. Yeah, exactly. So I was impressed seeing him. And I know that we've had an opportunity, you guys have had opportunities to see a lot of these guys on the list so far. Is there anyone that you saw Justin Rogers against some good competition?
Twice,
yeah. What'd you think about the way he's playing?
Rogers is, another one of these guys that's doing on both sides of the ball. He didn't necessarily foresee that. He had been an offensive lineman. He's a 5-star prospect as an offensive lineman, but playing linebacker. Looked real good in week 1. I saw him again this week against Harrison.
We saw that hit on Rustigi.
In week 1 he just lit up Justin Rustigi on a blitz. Yeah. But just very active, very aggressive.
And you saw Marcel Lewis.
I saw Marcel Lewis, yeah. And one of the things we talked about with that Ike team coming in was ground based, and obviously they have Rustigi and can throw the ball.
Yeah,
but we thought Caleb Oyster was going to be a real factor, and he kind of wasn't in that game. They Marcel Lewis and the linebacking core from Chippewa Valley managed to pretty much neutralize him for the majority of the game. He had a one big run, I think, if memory serves, but for the most part, they kept him pretty well in check. And it wasn't any big plays, but it was just the solid plays of keeping those runs to 3-4 yards.
You had an opportunity to see Devontae Dobbs last week.
He anchors that offensive line. They had their struggles early.
Talking about Dobbs.
Yeah, Dobbs. Yeah. Not him particularly, but the line, but once they got it going, it's like he anchors that line. And you saw in the second half against Livonia Churchill, like they were just running all over
wearing
the
place.
Him down.
Yes. He just wore him down.
And then talking quick about Anthony Bradford, he's one of the main reasons why Cameron Martinez is on that Mr. Football list is because that line.
Yes. You can vote for our guys, our top 10 guys, if you go to our website, statechampsnetwork.com, and just click on the Anvil Award. I do want to mention our criteria is the same as Mr. Football. So how we are going to choose who this is. Now, we have enlisted coaches to help us kind of keep this list fresh and let us know of other players who are making impacts. It's been a little slow go early, so we're going to stay on them or find new ones who will help us. We're not going to reveal who they are because we want this to be kind of that they can do this without any prejudice or bias. They're not going to vote against somebody that they have or whatever. So anyway, 30% performance throughout the season. That's being consistent. 20% is your level of competition. Obviously, that's important for alignment. 20% will be the online vote. 15% big game performance. 10% team success. 5% highly recruited athlete. Lance Dixon, credit you West Bloomfield fans. He's leading the vote. 4,319 votes right now by a lot.
So here comes a rookie.
Yeah. Yep. Or Horo is not far behind. Well, he's about 1,400 behind right now. But it looks, everybody's getting some votes. So go there, do it, support your guy. The guy who is number one can never come off the list, and he also has an automatic shot into the Final Four. So
and we'll see in a few weeks with River Rouge and Harper Woods if Rookie lives up to the hype on that game too.
All right. So before we go to break, I teased it before we went that we've got some continuing issues in the public school league, and Scott, I'm going to let you take the floor here and first talk about the incident that happened that had all of us checking their phones and we're like, what?
So on Friday, Detroit Pershing traveled to Detroit King. They got down 27-0 halfway through the first quarter and just decided to throw in the towel, wave the white flag, and head back to the bus, head back to Pershing. They came under quite a bit of fire from the social media world, calling them quitters, questioning their ability to compete, questioning their intestinal fortitude and whatnot. And I'm not going to excuse Pershing because they shouldn't have done that, but I understand the frustration. I understand that there's an issue that needs to be addressed from this. This kind of maybe brought it to a head. And I wrote a column for the website this week.
Yep, StateChampsNetwork.com. It's up right now.
And a bit of a hot take, but I'll own it. I think it's a time that we go back to the drawing board and we disband this current version of PSL football and maybe have King and Cass go off and join other leagues, and then maybe take all the rest of the teams and put them back together. Just because, I don't think anyone's best interests are being served here. I did some research. You had 3-week spans over the last 2 seasons. One 3-week span when Detroit King won their games by a total of 150-0. Another 3-week span when Cass won their games 175-0. It just, who's that benefiting? Does it benefit the team that's winning 65-0? No. Other than padding stats. Does it benefit the team that's losing 65-0? No. And, it's just, it's sad to see this once proud, great, storied league that just has put out almost a countless number of NFL talent, hordes of high-level Division I talent dating back 50, 60 years, and to have it to where it is now is just a shadow of its former self. And I kind of close the column by saying, you're doing an injustice to the participants, the coaches, the players today in 2018, and I think you're doing an injustice to the hallowed history of the league as well.
I remember when we started the show in 2002, I remember there was teams like Mackenzie, Finney, Renaissance is still there.
Crockett.
The last team that wasn't King or Cass to win the PSL was in 2011. It was Crockett.
I remember there was all these teams. There was all these good teams in the league, and like you said, now it's just
Southeastern was a beast. Yeah. Mumford.
Central popped their head up the last couple of years as a Division 5.
Yeah. Denby and Mumford have kind of, still had a commitment to football. They usually play in that Division II championship. There's, Detroit Renaissance is the one program that I was always kind of befuddled that they can't do anything football-wise. And it's still a viable, good school. What we're seeing right now, too, is East English Village fall off the map. But this might be an aberration, considering they lost everybody in 1 year and trying to rebuild that thing because, again, what we're talking about are the schools that are quote-unquote thriving, that are doing well in the city. There's not many. Obviously, Cass, King, and there's a number but Renaissance is East English is a really good school. Cody's really good. Yeah, Cody is still
Detroit Western.
But again, and again,
a number of factors we
can
play into this.
we can get back to it. But I think you might be right that you might have to almost remove schools like Cass and King, because this is just, it's not going to change.
But how great would it be if Cass and King either went independent and scheduled their own, like a country day, made their own schedule, or if they joined the MAC Red or the OA Red or the Catholic League Central? I mean, that would be something that's great for all parties involved.
Could you imagine that? In the Catholic Central? That would be fantastic. I mean, you'd be talking about now one of the best divisions in the country every year.
Well, and realistically, when you talk about conference change and conference movement, it's almost always based on competitive balance. I mean, it's always the thing that gets people to move. And it would be a shame if these kids are held to, well, this is the PSL and this is the way it's always been, because it's changed so much. And you got to kind of change with that. There have been a lot of times, I mean, we have new conferences popping up almost every year just based on people saying, hey, this isn't working for us where we are. And you, like Scott said, you almost got to let those two big powerhouses go find their own thing that makes them better, and let the rest of the teams kind of figure out what makes them better, because as you said, this isn't doing a good thing for anybody.
Frankly, if I'm the athletic director or the head coach at Cass or King, this is something that I would embrace. Kind of like making the analogy to basketball with Southfield Christian. They need to get out of the MIAC and make a move, whether it be to the OAA or into the Catholic League. I mean, don't you want to have a level of competition during the regular season that gets you ready for the playoffs? Is it fun to go out and know you're going to win every game in basketball by 50 points or in football by 50 points? Right.
River Rouge now in the league they're in is going to completely dominate it and destroy. You know, they had a great first game against.
They got Harper Woods now.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. So it'll be them and Harper Woods, the rest of the teams. You know, so yeah, maybe you can have a division of Harper Woods and River Rouge and Cass Tech and King, and create your own little independent football conference. I don't know, but good conversation and good article. It's a good read. And again, you know, something should be done. At least we should be talking about it. So we're going to take another break. When we come back, Matt Mowery has revealed his new top 25 rankings, which are on the website right now, statechampsnetwork.com. We'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll wrap up Extra Point for Week 3. So stay there.
Today, we'd like to talk about the MHSAA's new transfer regulation. It's not unusual for a student athlete to play a fall sport at their neighborhood school, then hop in the car after the season is over, and without moving, switch to a new school and be eligible the next fall. Beginning in the fall of 2018, students transferring schools that way will be ineligible for that sport in the fall of 2019. In other words, the next season in that sport. However, the student will be eligible in any other sport at the new school. And if a student meets one of the 15 exceptions in the MHSAA handbook, they could be eligible without delay in that sport at the new school. The rule is designed to slow down the athletically motivated transfers of students and disrupt the pipelines of kids following coaches who change schools or following teammates from non-school sports teams to a single school. For more information on eligibility or the transfer regulation, visit our website, mhsaa.com.
Okay, welcome back for the final segment of Extra Point for our Week 3 recap. And once again, Extra Point premieres every Monday at 5 o'clock on our social media platforms. And then you can also check them out on your audio platform. So, again, we love doing this, and thank you for sticking with us. Top 25 rankings are out. Matt Mowery's rankings are out. He does a great job replacing Tom, you know, which is, you know, it's one of those things, replacing an icon, but he puts a lot of time in on this, people. And so we like
consummate professional.
Yes, we always like to say, too, that our rankings are really fact-checked and thought out, and not just kind of flip a coin like you see on some rankings. I will not name anyone. But
and the Blue Bloods don't just automatically get ranked because of the Blue Bloods.
That's right. So, Grand Rapids Forest Hill Central is now dropped out. They are the one team that's dropped out. Who is going in?
Hudsonville entered our rankings at the very bottom, kind of where Davison had popped in last week. Hudsonville had been one of those teams that was right on the cusp, and everybody was kind of keeping an eye on them. And they beat Grand Ledge, and they beat excuse me, Holt in the first 2 weeks, and that was okay. So we're keeping an eye on them.
Yeah.
And then they dropped 41-0 on previously unbeaten Grand Haven squad on Friday, and that was kind of this is time to put them in there. They really deserve it now that they're 1-0 in the OK Red. And again, we were talking about this being kind of a show me week, and obviously they showed what they needed to show to get into the rankings.
Yeah, great ice cream too.
Yeah, well, that always helps.
In your 10 others to keep an eye on, you got a bunch of smaller divisions. You're giving them their love. Well, you got Jackson, Lumen Christi, you got Paloma, Westphalia, and you got Saginaw, Swan Valley, and New Lothrop too.
Well, and these are the schools that have dominated in their divisions and have been very consistent winners, and they're 3-0 again, and you got to give them love for kind of maintaining what it is that they do. And all of those programs have had just storied histories.
Coach Brogan over at Lumen Christi, I mean.
Yeah, it's incomparable history there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's when you stack those up, and the only thing that's different between those and the bigger schools is just the size of the schools.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're really gonna have to take a
and
look
I see that I see that you got Fortson closer. So
I did get them in there. Yeah, they've been in my ear a little bit. Yeah.
Yep. I know, and I'm sure they're loving being in the KLAA now. They're 3-0 out of the gate, but again, really playing. Again, I think as you're a Fortson fan, you want to play better teams because you want to make a run in the playoffs, and they have not done that
in a while.
So at the top. Did we have? I don't have last week's in front of me. Did we have any change?
There's not a lot of movement. Really, the only movement up at the very top was Catholic Central dropped down a couple notches because they really got kind of handled by Toledo Central Catholic squad. That it's obviously also a very strong program, but it kind of opened up, some of the issues that maybe hadn't popped their head up in the first 2 weeks for the Shamrocks, and now they really have some stuff to kind of iron out before hop right into Central Division play this week.
Yeah, should be able to handle Jesuit.
Yeah.
But again, this is a good bounce back week for them to kind of establish some dominance as they get into the meat. You can read those rankings on our website, and he has little capsules connected to all of it for some of the reasoning to where we are. I think we've got a pretty good representation here of the state and where we're at. And again, we get into week 4, we start getting into rivalry week. We're going to talk about that stuff in our football forecast. That's our Thursday show. We got some big games this week. We'll also talk about what we're going to be putting on TV, as well as what we'll be covering from a article perspective, journalist perspective. So football forecast is a lot of fun. We can tell you now, we'll definitely be talking about Brother Rice and Warren De La Salle, who are meeting at Wayne State. That's going to be a big one. We'll see really where Rice is on the map this season with that matchup, and a lot of other stuff. So make sure you check out the forecast. This has been another edition of Extra Point. Thank you to Lawrence Tech, the MHSAA, and Hungry Howie's for sponsoring this particular podcast. For Matt, Scott, John, I'm Lauren. See you next time.
See you later this week.